Hello everyone. I am Dreaming Stories and I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep. So before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching? Now get comfortable and relax. The sign had looked like every other roadside beacon, buzzing neon, half the letters dark, the others flickering in a weary red that bled into the asphalt. M_tel, VAC_NCY. Colin had been driving for 7 straight hours, a half-empty gas tank and a brain fog thick enough to make the world swim. He didn't care if the sheets were clean, or if the tap water ran rusty. All he wanted was a bed, 4 walls, and silence. He pulled into the cracked parking lot. The place looked deserted. A row of doors lined the squat 1-story building, each painted a peeling brown that might have been red decades ago. One room had a dim yellow lamp glowing behind the curtains. Otherwise, the place looked abandoned. Inside the office, a woman with stringy blonde hair and a crooked smile slid a key across the counter without asking for ID. "Room 6, she said. Her voice had a rasp, as though every word scraped her throat raw. "Don't lose the key." Colin nodded, dropped a crumpled 20 on the counter, and trudged to his car. He grabbed his overnight bag and went to room 6. The lock turned reluctantly, as though the door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned when he pushed inside. The room was plain, just as he'd expected. One double bed with a faded floral blanket. A nightstand with a chipped lamp. A phone with a rotary dial, the cord curled in dusty loops. A television bolted to the dresser. And a clock, one of those digital ones with the red numbers glowing faintly in the dark. The air smelled of mildew and old cigarette smoke. But it was quiet. Colin tossed his bag onto the chair, kicked off his shoes, and collapsed on the bed. The springs wheezed beneath him. He stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint buzz of the neon outside. He closed his eyes. Just for a minute, he thought. Just enough to let the tension drain out of his skull. When he opened them again, something felt wrong. The room hadn't changed: bed, dresser, nightstand, lamp. But when he turned toward the door, he froze. There was no door. The spot where he had entered minutes ago was nothing but a flat expanse of wallpaper. The floral pattern stretched unbroken across the wall, seamless. As if the door had never existed at all. Colin sat upright, his chest tightening. What the hell? He scrambled out of bed, rushed to the wall, and slapped his palm against it. Solid. Cold. No hinges, no knob. Not even the faint outline of a frame. His breathing quickened. He pressed harder, running his hands across the surface. The wallpaper felt brittle under his fingertips. He clawed at it, trying to tear it away, but it was fused to the wall like skin. "No," he muttered, backing away. "No, no, no." He spun to the window. The curtains swayed when he yanked them apart. The glass reflected his wide-eyed face, the red digits of the clock glowing over his shoulder. He shoved the window up with all his strength. It didn't budge. He pulled, slammed his shoulder against it, kicked. Nothing. The phone. He lunged for it, grabbed the receiver, and pressed it to his ear. Dead silence. Not even static. Colin's hands shook as he set it down. His throat was dry. His stomach lurched with the nauseating weight of panic. Okay. Okay. This is some kind of trick. Some kind of. He stopped. His eyes caught something on the nightstand that hadn't been there before. A folded piece of paper. Yellowed, as if it had been sitting there for years. He swallowed hard and reached for it. The paper crackled when he unfolded it. Scrawled in messy black ink were 4 words. Don't fall asleep. Colin's breath caught in his chest. He glanced around the room, heart hammering. Who's there? His voice cracked. Who put this here? No answer. Only silence, broken by the faint tick of the digital clock shifting from 11:47 to 11:48. Colin rubbed his temples. This had to be a dream. He was exhausted, half delirious. Maybe he'd fallen asleep already in the car and this was some twisted nightmare. But the paper crinkled in his hands, rough against his skin. The wallpaper was cold and solid beneath his knuckles. The musty smell of the blanket stung his nose. This was real. He sat on the bed, staring at the note, and then at the clock. The red glow of the digits felt oppressive, each passing minute pressing heavier on his chest. He told himself he wouldn't sleep. He'd stay awake until morning, then maybe, the door would be back. But as the minutes dragged, his eyelids grew heavy. The exhaustion seeped into his bones. At 12:03, he flicked off the lamp, telling himself the darkness would help him stay alert. The room changed. It was subtle. The shadows leaned in new directions, stretched in ways they shouldn't. The hum of the neon was gone. And the smell, thicker, damp, almost metallic, like blood on rust. He froze. In the corner of the room, the shadows seemed to ripple, like something was standing just out of sight. Then came the sound. A knock. Soft, deliberate. From inside the walls. The knock came again. 3 slow thuds, hollow and muffled, like a fist striking plaster. Colin's breath hitched. His whole body stiffened, as if the sound had locked him in place. He didn't dare move, didn't dare blink. His eyes stayed fixed on the corner where the shadows rippled. Hello. His voice was a rasp, barely more than a whisper. No answer. Another knock. Louder this time. Closer. Colin lurched forward, fumbling for the lamp. He twisted the switch with clammy fingers. The bulb flicked on, flooding the room in its dull yellow glow. The shadows snapped back into place. Normal. The smell vanished. The hum of the neon returned faintly, buzzing through the thin walls. Colin sat frozen, staring at the wall where the sound had come from. His skin prickled with cold sweat. The room looked the same again. Bed, dresser, nightstand. No ripples. No movement. But the paper was gone. He spun to the nightstand. Empty. No folded note. No trace it had ever existed. Colin's chest rose and fell in quick, uneven bursts. He grabbed the clock, yanking it closer. 12:07. He dropped it, trembling. This is insane, he muttered. I'm losing it. I'm tired. That's all. I'm tired. But his body wouldn't relax. Every muscle was wound tight. He couldn't sit still. He forced himself up, pacing the small square of floor. He pressed against the wallpaper again, desperate for some hidden seam, some doorframe, a crack, anything. Nothing. He turned to the dresser. Yanked open drawers. Empty. The wood smelled like mildew, and splinters dug into his fingertips. The television. He jabbed the power button. The screen flared to static, hissing into the silence. For a moment, relief washed through him, noise, any noise. Then, amid the static, shapes flickered. A smear of shadow. A figure, maybe, too tall, too thin, stretching across the snow of the screen. The image bent forward, like it was leaning toward him. Colin shut the TV off. His stomach lurched. He staggered backward, almost tripping over the bed. The room was silent again, except for the thrum of blood in his ears. The lamp. He kept his eyes fixed on it, clutching the nightstand as though it anchored him. He wasn't turning it off again. Never again. But when he looked at the nightstand, his blood turned to ice. The paper was back. Same yellow fold. Same scratchy black ink. But the message had changed. Don't turn off the lights. Colin stumbled back a step, heart pounding. No, he whispered. No, no, no. The note trembled in his hand when he picked it up. The ink looked wet, as though it had just been written. He crushed it into a ball and hurled it across the room. It bounced off the dresser and landed on the carpet. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. His throat was so dry it hurt to swallow. The knock came again. This time, it wasn't from the wall. It came from the headboard. Colin froze. His back was inches from the bed. He could feel the vibration run up the wood into his spine. Knock. 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 Slow. Patient. Colin leapt away from the bed, slamming into the dresser. The lamp teetered but stayed upright. He stood pressed against the wood, eyes darting across the room. Stop it. His voice cracked. Just stop it. Silence. The red glow of the clock ticked over to 12:15. Colin's chest heaved. He forced himself to breathe slowly, in through the nose, out through the mouth. He had to think. Had to stay awake, keep the lights on, and think. But the air felt heavier now, thick with that metallic tang. The walls seemed closer than before, the ceiling lower. He couldn't take his eyes off the bed. He didn't notice the paper had returned until it was too late. It lay neatly on the pillow, as though placed there with care. His knees went weak. He crept forward, every nerve screaming at him to stop. He reached for the note with trembling fingers. Unfolded it. 3 words this time. It's in here. Colin's breath rattled in his chest. He dropped the paper and stumbled back, crashing into the dresser again. The knock came once more. Not from the wall. Not from the headboard. From inside the mattress. A steady pounding, muffled but violent, shaking the springs. Colin's stomach turned to ice. He backed toward the corner, staring at the bed. The knocking grew louder, faster, as though something was struggling to break free from inside the mattress. Jesus Christ, he whispered. No, 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 no. The lamp flickered. Colin gasped and lunged for it, slapping the base. The bulb steadied. The knocking stopped. Silence pressed against his ears. Then, slowly, the blanket on the bed began to rise. Something underneath was shifting. Moving. Crawling toward the surface. The lamp flickered again. Colin grabbed the base with both hands, shaking it. No. Stay on, damn it. The bulb popped. Darkness swallowed the room. And in the pitch black, Colin heard the whisper. Close. Right beside his ear. Don't sleep. Colin's scream stuck in his throat. His body lurched away from the voice, but there was nowhere to go. Darkness pressed against him like a living thing, thick and suffocating. He swung his arms wildly, searching for the nightstand, for the lamp, for anything. His hand smacked against the clock. It toppled to the floor, clattering once before the glow went dark. The room plunged into complete black. No. His voice cracked. No, no, no. A sound moved through the dark. Not the steady rhythm of knocking this time. Something softer. A scrape, like fingernails dragging across plaster. It circled the room. Slow. Deliberate. Colin dropped to his knees, scrambling across the carpet. He banged his shin against the bed frame, hissed in pain, but kept moving. His fingers found the lamp's cord. He clawed up the table, searching for the switch. The whisper returned. Not in his ear this time. Everywhere. The walls, the floor, the ceiling seemed to breathe it in unison. Don't sleep. Colin's heart hammered. His hands shook so badly he fumbled the lamp switch 3 times before he got it. The bulb flared back to life. The room was empty. The bed was made again, the blanket smooth. The notes were gone. The clock sat neatly on the nightstand, glowing red, 12:28. Colin staggered back, clutching his chest. His pulse throbbed in his temples. The silence pressed in around him, heavier than before. He had to get out. Door or no door, window or no window, he had to find a way. He grabbed the chair, lifted it over his head, and hurled it at the window. The glass didn't shatter. The chair rebounded like it had struck concrete, crashing to the floor and splintering. Colin gasped, staring at the unbroken pane. Then he saw it. A shape in the glass. Not his reflection. Not exactly. The face looking back was his, but the skin was ashen, the eyes sunken, lips split and dark with dried blood. Its mouth curled into a grin. Colin stumbled back, choking on air. The reflection stayed, grinning wider, teeth sharp and blackened. He blinked, and it was gone. Only his own face remained. Pale. Wild-eyed. Sweating. He collapsed onto the edge of the bed, head in his hands. "I'm losing my mind," he whispered. I'm losing it." The mattress shifted beneath him. Colin bolted upright. The bedspread sagged, as though something heavy pressed down from underneath. Slowly, the depression slid toward him, inching closer with each breath. He shot off the bed, backed into the corner. His eyes locked on the moving bulge, his pulse racing. Then it stopped. The blanket smoothed itself. Perfect. Untouched. Colin's body trembled with adrenaline. His knees ached from crouching. Every nerve screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere to run to. And then, like a cruel trick, the paper was back on the nightstand. Unfolded. Waiting. Colin's throat tightened. He forced himself closer, step by step, until he could read the words. This time, the handwriting was jagged, smeared, as if written in haste. "It won't let you leave." Colin's vision blurred. He crumpled the note, hurled it across the room. His chest heaved, gasping for air. The bulb flickered. Once. Twice. No. He slapped the lamp again, gripping it like a lifeline. Stay on. Stay on. The light steadied. The clock ticked over, 12:37. He had to last until morning. If morning even came here. If time still worked the same way. He paced, counting his breaths, whispering under them like a chant, "Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Don't sleep." But exhaustion gnawed at him. His eyelids burned. His muscles ached. His mind dragged him toward unconsciousness like gravity. He slapped his own face. Pinched his arm until it bruised. Anything to stay awake. And then the TV clicked on by itself. Static filled the room, hissing louder than before, almost a roar. Colin spun, eyes locked on the screen. The snow swirled, forming patterns, shapes. A corridor. Doors. And at the end, room 6. His room. He saw himself inside, pacing like a caged animal. The image zoomed closer, closer, until the Colin on screen stared directly at him, eyes wide, lips moving. The screen Colin mouthed the words again, 3 syllables. Colin's stomach dropped when he read them. Behind you. Every hair on his body rose. His breath froze in his lungs. He turned. The lamp flickered once more. And this time, he wasn't alone. Something stood between Colin and the doorless wall. At first, his brain refused to process it. The lamp stuttered, throwing the thing into jagged fragments of light and shadow. It was tall. Too tall. Its head brushed the ceiling. Its limbs were wrong, too long, bending at angles that weren't meant for human joints. The skin, or what looked like skin, was stretched too tight, translucent in places, so thin he swore he saw things crawling beneath it, veins that pulsed as though something else was alive inside. Its face was smooth. No eyes. No mouth. Just a pale blankness where features should have been. And yet, Colin felt it watching him. Felt its attention burning into him like a spotlight. He stumbled back toward the bed. The springs shrieked when his knees hit the mattress. The thing tilted its head, the movement sharp, bird-like. Its neck cracked audibly. Colin's throat worked, but no sound came out. He wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but his legs were cement. The lamp flickered again, plunging the room in pulses of dark. Every time the light cut out, the thing was closer. First against the wall. Then halfway across the floor. Then at the foot of the bed. Colin gasped and hurled himself sideways, rolling off the mattress. He hit the floor hard, pain jolting through his hip, but he forced himself up, bolting for the dresser. He grabbed the splintered remains of the chair and raised a jagged leg like a weapon. Stay back. His voice cracked. The faceless thing cocked its head again, as if listening. Then, it knocked. The sound came not from its hands but from everywhere, reverberating through the walls, the floor, the bed. A deep, hollow pounding. Knock. 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 Colin's skull throbbed with each strike. The lamp blinked faster now, like a heartbeat about to fail. And in one of those stutters of light, the thing was gone. The room was empty again. Colin stood shaking, chair-leg weapon clutched in his hand, eyes darting across every corner. Nothing. Only the hiss of static from the television and the red glow of the clock, 12:49. He dropped the chair leg, collapsed against the dresser, and pressed his palms into his eyes until fireworks burst behind them. His breath came in ragged gulps. This couldn't be real. Couldn't be. And yet the pain in his hip, the sting of splinters in his hand, the acrid stench in the air, all of it screamed reality. When he lowered his hands, the note was back on the nightstand. He wanted to ignore it. Pretend it wasn't there. But his eyes locked on it, unwilling, dragged toward it like gravity. He approached on trembling legs, snatched it up, and unfolded it. This time the letters sprawled crooked, smeared dark like they'd been written in something thicker than ink. Don't let it touch you. Colin's stomach lurched. He dropped the note and backed away. The television snapped off. The room fell into silence so total it made his ears ring. Then, the mattress sagged. Colin froze. Something was sitting on the bed. The blanket sunk beneath invisible weight. Slowly, as though whatever it was leaned forward, the impression deepened. Colin's pulse spiked. He clenched his fists until his nails dug into his palms. Don't touch me, he whispered. Don't you touch me. The lamp flickered again. When the light steadied, something new was on the pillow. Not a note this time. A photograph. Colin staggered closer, snatched it up with shaking fingers. It was him. Asleep in the bed. His throat closed. He dropped the photo like it burned. His knees gave out and he sank to the carpet. The clock ticked, 12:56. For more minutes to the next hour. For more minutes that stretched like eternity. And then came the sound that shattered him. Not knocking. Not scraping. Breathing. Right behind him. Slow. Deep. Wet. Colin's muscles locked. He didn't want to turn. He didn't want to see. But the air against his neck was cold and damp, stirring the tiny hairs there. He forced himself to move, to whip around. The lamp went out. Darkness swallowed everything. And two hands, clammy and thin, clamped down on his shoulders. The touch was ice. Not cold like winter air, but a penetrating, marrow-deep chill that made Colin's bones ache and his chest seize. He screamed, raw, primal, but the sound was swallowed by the dark, muffled like he was shouting underwater. The hands squeezed tighter. His knees buckled. He clawed at them, trying to pry them off, but his fingers sank into flesh that wasn't flesh at all. It was spongy, damp, like rotten wood. Something writhed beneath the skin, shifting against his grip. Colin thrashed, tearing himself free. He fell forward onto the carpet, scrambling like an animal. His nails ripped against the weave, tearing skin from his fingertips, but he didn't care. He just needed distance, any distance. The lamp flared back to life. The room was empty. Colin was on his hands and knees, gasping for air. Sweat poured down his temples. His heart slammed against his ribs like it was trying to break free. The clock glowed red, 1:01. A new hour. The television flicked on again. This time there was no static. The screen showed a grainy image of the room, his room, from above, like a surveillance feed. Colin watched himself crawl across the floor, trembling, wide-eyed. On the bed behind him, something sat. A figure. Faceless. Long-limbed. Perfectly still. Colin whipped around. The bed was empty. He turned back to the screen. The figure was still there, watching him. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." The feed zoomed in, closer and closer, until the figure's smooth face filled the screen. A blank expanse of pale flesh, featureless. Then, slowly, a mouth began to open in the middle of it. The sound that spilled from the speakers was not human. It was a chorus of voices, layered and broken, whispering over each other in different tones, different languages, all carrying the same message. Sleep. 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 Colin staggered backward, tripping over the splintered chair leg. His skull thudded against the wall. His vision swam, black dots freckling the edges. The voices grew louder. The mouth on the screen stretched impossibly wide, teeth sprouting like shards of glass. Colin ripped the TV's cord from the wall. Sparks spat. The screen went black. The voices cut off. Silence. He slumped against the dresser, chest heaving, staring at the lamp as if it were the last lifeline he had left. He couldn't do this. Couldn't last the night. His body was breaking. His mind fraying. Every second stretched like an eternity, pulling him closer to the edge. And then, another note. It was stuck to the wall this time, above the door that no longer existed. Colin dragged himself up, every step agony, and peeled it free. The handwriting was jagged, frantic, scrawled as if someone had written while being dragged away. "The lights won't save you forever." His stomach twisted. He dropped the paper, shaking his head. No. No, no, no. The lamp flickered in agreement. Colin slammed his hand down on the switch, desperate to steady it. The bulb flared bright, almost too bright, filling the room with harsh yellow light. He collapsed on the floor, curling against the wall, eyes locked on the bed. He wouldn't get back on it. Not ever. Minutes bled into one another. His head bobbed, eyelids drooping despite his terror. His body begged for rest. He slapped his cheek again, biting down on his tongue until the metallic tang of blood filled his mouth. The clock ticked, 1:14. And then he heard it. Not knocking. Not scraping. Not breathing. Laughter. High-pitched. Childlike. It spilled from the corners of the room, bouncing off the walls, bubbling with glee. Colin pressed his hands over his ears. Shut up. Shut up. The laughter only grew louder, weaving in and out of itself, surrounding him. And then, the bed shifted again. This time, the blanket didn't just sink. It pulled back, folding down halfway like invisible hands had drawn it aside. Colin's throat closed. He couldn't move. Something was under the sheets. Rising. Taking form. First, the curve of a shoulder. Then a head. Then an arm, impossibly long, stretching toward the edge of the bed. The laughter cut off. The lamp blew out. Darkness fell. And Colin felt fingers brush against his ankle. Colin's scream ripped out of him the instant those fingers grazed his skin. The touch was damp, clammy, as though the hand had been soaking in stagnant water. He kicked violently, tearing himself free, and scrambled backward on all fours until his spine slammed against the wall. The darkness swallowed everything. The lamp was dead. The neon hum outside was gone. The red glow of the clock had vanished. It was absolute black, suffocating and endless. And in that blackness, he heard the sheets sliding. Something was climbing out of the bed. Colin's lungs seized. His own ragged breathing was the only sound he could hear besides the faint creak of the mattress. He pressed himself harder against the wall, nails tearing the wallpaper as though he could dig his way out. The sound grew closer. A dragging weight across the carpet. Slow. Deliberate. Then, breathing. Not behind him this time. In front. Inches away. He could feel the air move, damp and sour, washing over his face. Colin swung blindly, his fists connecting with nothing but empty air. He lashed out again, screaming, until his knuckles struck something solid. It gave under his hand like wet clay. The thing exhaled. A rasping wheeze that reeked of rot. Colin staggered sideways, palms searching desperately for the lamp. He grabbed the nightstand instead, knocking the clock to the floor. The silence of its fall made him sick, no glow, no crackle, just nothing. Then, light. Not from the lamp. From the walls. Hairline cracks split across the wallpaper, glowing faintly red, like veins of lava burning through plaster. The glow spread in jagged lines, casting the room in a hellish dimness. And there it was. Crawling out from the bed, its long limbs bending at grotesque angles, dragging its bulk toward him. The faceless head tilted, catching the red light across its smooth surface. Colin gagged on terror. His hands closed around the splintered chair leg. He raised it like a spear and swung. The wood cracked against the thing's shoulder with a hollow thud. It didn't react. It kept crawling, dragging its torso forward inch by inch, as though the strike hadn't happened at all. Stay away. Colin roared, striking again, this time slamming the wood into where its face should have been. The splinter snapped in his hands. The thing froze. For one impossible second, silence stretched. Then it laughed. A thin, wet chuckle, rising from deep in its chest. Colin's stomach lurched. He dropped the broken wood and bolted across the room, slamming his fists against the wall where the door had been. He pounded until his knuckles split, blood smearing across the wallpaper. Let me out. Let me out. The cracks in the wall glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with his screams. The heat seared his skin, but still the wall held. Behind him, the creature rose to its full height. Its limbs stretched, elongating, scraping the ceiling. Its head twisted, bones cracking, until it was upside down, the blank face staring directly at him. Colin turned. His legs nearly gave out. And then, another note appeared. Pinned to his own chest. He stared at it in horror, trembling hands ripping it free. The words were smeared, jagged, but legible. Run is useless. It wants you to choose. Colin's throat worked, choking on panic. Choose what? Choose what? The creature answered with a sound that wasn't human speech. It was a chorus again, layered voices reverberating in the air. Wake or sleep. The words rattled his skull. He pressed his palms to his ears, but they echoed inside his head anyway. Wake or sleep. Colin dropped to his knees. Tears streaked his face, hot against the freezing sweat. What does that mean? I don't understand. The thing loomed over him, its limbs spanning the walls, its blank face bending down until it was inches from his own. The heat from the glowing cracks pulsed harder, filling the room with a furnace-like stench of scorched wallpaper. And then, softly, almost gently, it placed one spidery hand against his chest. Colin's heart stopped. For a single, impossible moment, he wasn't in the motel room anymore. He was in his car, headlights cutting down an empty highway. He was blinking too long, the wheel trembling beneath his drifting hands. The radio was dead. The night was silent. And sleep, sweet, heavy, inevitable, was pulling at his skull. Then the world snapped back. The motel room. The creature. Its hand pressed against his chest. Colin gasped, clutching the spot where it touched him. The cold sank deeper, pulling his heartbeat down into slow, dragging thuds. And once again, the voices spoke. Wake or sleep. The cracks in the wall blazed. The lamp reignited in a harsh, white burst. The clock, still shattered on the floor, lit up for one last instant. 1:44. And Colin realized, with crushing certainty, that he was running out of time. The white glare from the lamp stung Colin's eyes, but he couldn't look away. The creature loomed above him, faceless and silent now, its hand still pressed cold against his chest. The voices had gone quiet. Only those three words lingered in his skull, echoing over and over like a mantra. Wake or sleep. His breath rasped in ragged pulls. I'm awake. I'm awake, damn it, he croaked, clutching the creature's wrist. I don't want to sleep. The thing didn't move. Its touch deepened, sinking through skin into bone. His vision swam. For a heartbeat, he swore he saw his veins glowing faintly red, pulsing in rhythm with the cracks spreading across the walls. Stop it, stop it. He tore himself backward. The hand slipped from his chest, leaving a frostbitten ache where it had pressed. The motel room groaned around him. The walls swelled like lungs. The wallpaper blistered, peeling back in long strips. Heat poured from the glowing cracks, the air shimmering. The smell of scorched mold and rust filled his nose. Colin stumbled to the bed. The photograph still lay on the pillow. He picked it up with trembling fingers. It was different now. Not him asleep. Him awake, on his knees, face twisted with terror, exactly as he looked now. In the corner of the photo, the faceless creature leaned close to him, its smooth head brushing his ear. Colin flung the photo across the room. His stomach lurched as bile clawed its way up his throat. This isn't real. This isn't real. The clock blinked, its red digits sputtering back to life despite being shattered on the carpet. 1:53. The creature's head tilted at the numbers. Slowly, deliberately, it crouched, sinking until its smooth face hovered inches from the glowing digits. Then, impossibly, it spoke through the clock. The numbers warped, flickering between shapes. Words crawled across the digital display in jagged light. Choose now. Colin staggered back, shaking his head. Choose what? I don't know what it means. Wake or sleep? What does that mean? The voices filled the room again, vibrating through the walls, the floor, the furniture. Sleep is forever. Wake is pain. Colin's chest heaved. His legs trembled. He pressed his palms to his temples until it felt like his skull would crack. Forever. Pain. The cracks in the walls stretched wider. Segments of plaster crumbled to the carpet, glowing embers spitting from the gaps. Beyond them, he saw nothing but a pulsing red void. It beat like a heart, slow and steady, shaking the room with each throb. The creature turned toward him. Its limbs stretched, scraping along the walls, sinking into the glowing fissures like roots. The entire room pulsed with it, alive, breathing. Another note appeared. This time not on the nightstand. Not on the wall. On his arm. The letters were carved directly into his skin, fresh and raw, bleeding as he read them. No more minutes. Colin's vision blurred with tears. He pressed his hand against the cut, but blood seeped through his fingers. The clock blinked, 1:59. 1 minute. The voices rose again, 100 overlapping, distorted versions of himself, screaming from every surface. Choose. 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 Colin staggered to the bed. His whole body shook. His chest ached with each breath. He wanted to scream, but his voice broke in his throat. Wake, he whispered. I'll wake. I'll wake. The creature froze. The room went still. The glow dimmed. The voices cut off. Colin's heart pounded. I said wake. Do you hear me? Wake. The clock clicked. 2 o'clock. The light exploded. The cracks burst, flooding the room in white heat. The walls split open, tearing wide to reveal nothing but blinding light beyond. The creature lunged at him, arms stretching, faceless head elongating into a maw that split wide at the seam. Colin screamed as its hands closed around him. And then... silence. The light was gone. The creature was gone. The motel room was gone. Colin opened his eyes. He was sitting in his car, hands locked around the steering wheel. His headlights glared down a 2-lane highway. The dash clock glowed, 2 a.m. His chest heaved. His face was wet with sweat. He blinked, confused, disoriented. He was parked on the shoulder, engine idling. The radio flicked on. Static hissed. Then, faintly, beneath the noise, came the whisper. You chose wrong. Colin's blood ran cold. In the rearview mirror, the back seat wasn't empty. The breath froze in Colin's lungs. He didn't want to look. Every nerve in his body screamed to put the car in gear and drive without ever glancing behind. But the mirror tugged at his eyes, dragging his gaze against his will. The back seat was dark, faintly lit by the red dash glow. And something sat there. Its head brushed the roof. Its limbs folded awkwardly, bent wrong to fit the space. The smooth, faceless expanse tilted toward him, catching the faint glint of the dashboard lights. Colin's knuckles went white around the wheel. His heart hammered so hard he thought his ribs would splinter. No, he whispered. His voice cracked. No, you're not real. You're not. The radio crackled. The voices poured through again, layered and distorted, seeping from every speaker. Sleep. 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 Colin slammed the dial. The radio went dead. But the whisper didn't stop. It was inside the car now, inside his skull, vibrating against his teeth. He jammed the car into drive. The tires squealed as he tore back onto the highway. The world blurred past in streaks of black and gray. His eyes stung. His whole body trembled. "Wake," he rasped, gripping the wheel until his hands ached. "I chose wake. You hear me? I chose wake." The figure shifted in the back seat. Its long arm slid forward, stretching impossibly far, the hand brushing against the back of his seat. Colin screamed and swerved. The car fishtailed, tires screeching. He wrenched the wheel, barely regaining control, his chest heaving. "Stay away from me." The clock on the dash flicked. 2:06. Colin blinked. Hadn't it just been 2 o'clock? He glanced again. 2:15. His gut twisted. Time was skipping. Sliding. He slammed his palm against the dash. The numbers flickered, scrambled, then settled. 3:02. No. No, no, no. His voice cracked into a sob. The road ahead had changed. The painted lines were gone. The trees had vanished. All he saw was endless gray stretching forward, the headlights swallowed by mist. The speedometer needle shook, pinned at 0 despite the engine's roar. Colin's grip faltered. His hands slipped on the sweat-slick wheel. The faceless figure leaned closer. Its head tilted, nearly touching his shoulder. The smell of mildew and rust filled the car. "Get out," Colin whispered. "Get out." He swung the wheel hard. The car skidded sideways. And froze. Not slowed. Froze. The engine roared, but the car hung suspended, motionless in the mist. Colin's breath caught in his throat. His body jerked against the locked seatbelt, but nothing moved. The clock blinked again, 3:33. Then 4:01. Then 11:47. Time scrambled across the display, faster and faster, numbers blurring until they dissolved into a single glowing word. Sleep. The faceless figure's hand slid forward. It pressed gently against Colin's temple. His vision exploded with white. He was in the motel again. Room 6. The bed. The lamp. The nightstand. The clock glowed, 12 o'clock. Colin staggered back, choking on panic. No. No. I left. I left. The note was waiting on the pillow. He snatched it up with trembling fingers. The letters were enormous, scrawled in jagged black strokes that tore the paper. You never left. The knock came again. From inside the walls. Then the mattress. Then the floor beneath him. Everywhere at once. Colin dropped the note, covering his ears. His scream rattled in his throat, but it was drowned by the pounding. The walls shook. The lamp flickered. The plaster split wider, red light spilling into the room like blood. And the voices rose above it all, shrieking, deafening, drowning everything. Forever. 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 Colin collapsed to his knees, his vision tunneling. He pressed his palms to his eyes, sobbing. When he looked up, the creature was in front of him again. Taller. Wider. Its faceless head stretched until it nearly scraped both walls. It leaned close. And finally, it spoke in a single, clear, human voice. Colin's own. Go to sleep. Colin's entire body quaked. The words reverberated in his skull, not just spoken, but branded, carved into him. His voice, twisted back at him, commanding surrender. "No," he howled, forcing himself to his feet, though his legs felt like they were made of lead. His throat burned with the effort. "I'm not, I won't." The creature tilted its head. For the first time, something like an expression appeared across the blankness of its face. Not features exactly, but impressions of them. Indent swelling, sinking, shaping into a grotesque parody of his own face. His eyes. His nose. His mouth. It smiled. Colin staggered backward, colliding with the dresser. He fumbled for the broken chair leg still lying there, clutching it like a knife. The lamp flickered. The clock blinked. 12:04. Then both went out. Darkness. Colin's scream caught in his throat. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He waved the splintered wood in front of him, blind, every nerve screaming that the thing was inches away. And then, light again. The lamp flared to life. But the room was wrong. The walls stretched impossibly far, receding into a corridor that shouldn't exist. Door after door lined the passage, each identical, each numbered 6. Colin blinked furiously. His chest heaved. No. No, this isn't real. This. The pounding started again. This time, from every door at once. Knock. 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 He staggered forward, gripping the chair leg like a talisman. His steps echoed down the impossible corridor. Each door rattled as he passed, shaking on its hinges as if something desperate pressed from the other side. The voices rose again, layered and broken, spilling through the cracks. Choose. 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 Colin stopped halfway down the hall. His whole body trembled. He turned, staring at the endless line of identical doors, each with the same brass 6 nailed to the wood. "Choose what?" he screamed, his voice raw, breaking. "I don't know what you want." The doors rattled harder. The pounding grew louder, so violent the floor beneath him vibrated. And then one door creaked open. The 6th on the left. Light spilled through the crack. Pale, flickering, like a candle guttering in wind. Colin's throat closed. His hands shook as he stepped closer, every instinct screaming to run. Inside, he saw himself. Asleep on the bed. Peaceful. Breathing steady. For one heartbeat, relief surged through him. A way out. Maybe that was it, maybe all he had to do was accept it. Lay down. Sleep. Then the reflection twitched. Its eyes snapped open, bloodshot and bulging, locked onto him. Its mouth opened wide, wider than humanly possible, stretching until its jaw cracked. It shrieked. The sound was deafening, a blast that rattled his skull and made blood stream from his nose. Colin staggered back, clutching his ears. No. The other him lurched upright, crawling off the bed with jerky, inhuman movements. Its eyes never blinked. Its mouth never closed. Colin slammed the door. His hands burned with the heat of the wood. The pounding resumed. Harder. Closer. From all sides now. He spun wildly. The corridor shook. Plaster rained from the ceiling. Doors burst open one after another, spilling red light into the hall. From each doorway, shapes poured out. Faceless, long-limbed things crawling, twisting, dragging themselves forward. Colin screamed and ran. His bare feet slapped against the warped carpet, the chair leg heavy in his hand. He sprinted past door after door, his lungs burning, throat raw. The corridor stretched on forever. No end. No exit. The clock blinked into existence on the wall ahead. Its digits glowed enormous, brighter than the lights above, bleeding red across the wallpaper. 12:29. The numbers shifted. 12:59. Then 1 o'clock. The pounding stopped. Colin froze, chest heaving, staring at the clock. The silence pressed in, heavier than all the noise before. Then a single door creaked open behind him. He turned. At the end of the corridor stood one door, larger than the rest. Its brass number was burned black, twisted into an unrecognizable shape. Light spilled from beneath it. Not white. Not red. Something darker. The voices whispered again, calm now, almost gentle. Last chance. Colin swallowed hard, every nerve screaming in agony. His legs shook beneath him, but he stepped toward the door anyway. The knob was ice when he reached for it. His breath caught. His chest clenched. He turned it. The door swung wide. And inside. Inside the door was not a room. It was a void. The floor dropped away into endless black, rippling faintly like water but swallowing all light. The walls of the corridor bent inward, groaning, as though being sucked into the emptiness. Colin froze on the threshold, one hand braced against the frame. His body trembled, every nerve strung tight as wire. The voices filled the void, not layered now but singular, unified. Calm. Patient. Choose. The black surface rippled again, and from its depths, something rose. It was him. Another Colin, soaked and pale, crawling up from the darkness. His face was gaunt, his lips blue. Water streamed from his hair, his eyes red-rimmed and wild. He dragged himself forward, dripping onto the threshold, leaving black stains on the carpet. Colin staggered back. No. No, no, no. The other Colin lifted his head. His mouth stretched open. Wake. The sound wasn't his voice. It was hollow, warped, distorted like an echo played backward. Then, another figure rose from the void. A second version of him. This one was peaceful. Eyes closed. Breathing steady. He looked warm, dry, as though he'd just drifted off in bed. His lips moved without sound, but Colin knew the word anyway. Sleep. The two selves knelt before him, side by side. One drenched and broken, one serene and still. The voices echoed, wrapping around his skull, rattling his teeth. Wake is pain. Sleep is forever. Choose. Colin dropped to his knees, hands clutching his scalp. His chest convulsed with ragged sobs. He couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. Stop it, he screamed, voice breaking. I don't want either. The void pulsed. The walls split wider, chunks of plaster ripping away into the black. The corridor buckled under his knees. The air itself groaned. Choose. The wet version of him lurched closer, grabbing his wrist with icy fingers. Agony shot up his arm as though his bones had frozen solid. His reflection's eyes bulged, veins black, lips peeling into a grin. The serene version reached out too, gently placing a warm hand against his cheek. The touch was soothing, heavy with promise. His eyelids grew heavy under it. Colin screamed, thrashing between them. His mind fractured, torn by their hands, their voices, their impossible choice. Then he looked past them, down into the void. And he saw them. Dozens. Hundreds. All of him. Each drowning. Each clawing. Each asleep, awake, screaming, silent. An ocean of Colin's faces, all trapped in the black, their mouths open in soundless cries. His gut heaved. His vision spun. No. He whispered. I'm not one of you. I'm not. The void pulsed, shaking the corridor. The hands of both versions gripped tighter, pulling him toward the edge. The voices rose to a scream. Choose. Colin's vision blurred white. His chest convulsed. His arms shook. And then, he let go. Of everything. His body went limp. His eyes closed. The serene version of him smiled faintly. The wet, broken version screeched. Both dissolved back into the void, dragging him with them. The last thing he felt was falling, weightless, endless. The last thing he heard was his own voice whispering from the dark. Sleep. When Colin's eyes opened, morning sunlight spilled through the curtains. He lay on the bed in room 6. The floral blanket was neatly tucked. The lamp was off. The clock read 7:14 a.m. For a long time, he lay frozen, barely daring to breathe. The silence was perfect. No knocking. No laughter. Just the faint buzz of neon outside. His chest rose and fell. His pulse steadied. Maybe it had all been a nightmare. A delirious hallucination. Then he turned toward the wall. There was no door. And on the nightstand, folded neatly, was a note. He reached for it with trembling fingers, unfolded it slowly. The ink was fresh. Welcome back.